Coach, what's the biggest observation so far here through the spring?
We've had a lot of opportunities to get out here with a lot of football plays and a lot of different stuff. But, I like the mindset of the offense right now in terms of the energy and the attacking enthusiasm. We really placed a lot of emphasis in terms of, what we want to get out of this spring and not just run football plays, but how we're going to try and attack a defense. And obviously you're installing stuff and you're trying to do your base and reacting to what you're getting defensively, which is great that we're seeing from Coach Wilson. It's been awesome to see a lot of different things, but is to be comfortable running our system. And that's what I've seen out of it. What there's still plenty of room for improvement is the consistency within the operation. We challenge our guys offensively to do a lot of different stuff, and we put it on these guys and expect them to, and that's what we've got to continue to do, is the consistency and not have these these up and downs, these ebbs and flows. We got to keep on stacking practice on top of practice on top of practice. But I have been pleased with the energy that we've had and the way that we've been able to do some different things offensively and attack.
One of the biggest things we've always talked about during your time here is being able to diversify your offense and to have multiple different looks. And one of the biggest things back in 2019 was offense looked totally different from week one to the end of the season, right? That's the goal you want as you go throughout a season, is to look different as you go along. What do you like about this offense specifically in terms of the different looks and the different schemes and all the different things that you can do due to the personnel that you have?
I think that's been a big emphasis as well this spring in terms of the personnel that we have on this football team. How are we trying to target guys within the pass game? How are we trying to get carries to specific guys in the run game? How are we helping out specific guys in protections or doing different things? But that's been a huge emphasis as well in terms of, finding a way to have our guys be comfortable doing a few base things, few base concepts, but making it look like a lot more stuff. Obviously, you don't want to get too crazy in terms of what you're asking these guys to do in terms of a million different schemes. As much as we can as coaches offensively, we're trying to keep it really, really consistent in terms of what these guys are learning, and being able to react to different defenses, different fronts, different pressures, different coverages. And that's our goal, is to make it simple, but make it stress the defense, okay? And whether it's formationally, whether it is personnel-wise, whether it is motions or shifts or anything like that, we're trying to create that offensively and not just align in static stuff and say, hey, this is what we're going to do. And that's what we've tried to do is really focus on that this spring in terms of, showing a lot, but doing a little in terms of what we're doing concept.
I don't know if it's maybe one specific player, maybe a position group, or just your unit as a whole, but when you've utilized the time in the fall and obviously now here in the spring, is there a specific area or group that you look at and we're like, man, I can sense a huge improvement from the fall to the spring, and you've sensed that as you started the spring and now have almost near completed it by next week?
I think that as you look through, 10 practices and what we've done and what we've challenged our guys to do, like I said earlier, there's still a lot of work to be done. But as you look at specific position groups, I've been pretty excited about the running back room. That's one that it's been by committee in terms of the past couple of years that I've been here, obviously. But, guys stepping up in a role that they maybe have not had prior to this and coming in and competing at a high level and doing some really good things. I think there's been some growth in the tight end room. And, Zach Larkin, it's been really good to see him kind of, come out and be able to do some different things for us and challenge the defense as well. And, there's been some guys as well all across the rest of the offense. I will say that I think we got to challenge our offensive line right now in terms of continuing to pick it up and be consistent more than anything right now. But those two groups right now on the top of my head would probably be the guys that I've been pretty excited about this spring so far. And obviously everybody else is still pushing. Okay, a lot of guys are getting the opportunity to get a lot of reps for a bunch of different reasons in terms of guys being out there or not. So, it's great time for these guys who haven't had a ton to be able to better themselves and give themselves more experience as you look at it.
You being a former lineman, you brought up the offensive line. Where do you feel you've made strides this spring, and where do you feel these are some areas I really want to see us improve on?
The focus that I went into this past fall ball and spring ball was kind of a mindset mentality of the physicality and toughness of the group. And, we did that in the fall, I felt at times, and we've shown some flashes in the spring, but it's still not where it needs to be. And the finish is what we're really focused on and trying to strive for every single play. When you've got an offensive line who finishes every play, who's down the field, who's picking guys up, who's playing really physically and straining, that's when it becomes, to me, not only a different offense but a different team. And we're not quite there yet. And that's been a focus, especially even these past 2 practices, in terms of how we've got to get better in that way. But I think some guys are improving individually, but it's obviously 5, sometimes 6, 7, depending on what we're doing with their tight ends. And we've all got to be a cohesive unit. And there's times right now where we're doing that, but we still need to be able to be consistent in terms of those 5 specifically up front. But to me, the focus forever going forward is playing physical and letting it loose in terms of not overthinking stuff and just going to play football.
We know what Curtis has provided for us here in the past, and even throughout your practices now. We've seen Anthony Thompson a little bit more, and Gunner's a guy, even back in 2019, could just about make any throw he wanted to. In terms of the whole room, and I know you'll utilize Michael Hoppert as well, but where's that room where you've seen that competitiveness and that drive and also the consistency start to form?
It's the most competition we've had in that room in a while, and I like the fact that we've got it, but I'm looking for a guy to separate himself right now. That's my challenge to that group is, we've gone through 10 practices and we'd like to have a guy step up. Okay, and we want to be able to continue to get these guys reps and compete. But you go through spring ball, you want to have a little bit of an idea of what that's going to look like next fall, and that's the challenge to the room right now. I love what they're doing competition-wise, but the same thing goes overall. I've talked about it with the offensive line, with the offense as a whole. It's consistency, and it's coming out practice to practice and being able to perform at a high level. All right, you can't have those dips, especially at the quarterback position. You've got some serious, possible missed opportunities or poor decisions that are actually going to change the game. And, that is at the highest level in terms of importance of not making those kind of decisions. And that's what we've really placed an emphasis on and stressed throughout the spring with those guys. But, I like how they're competing, but I'm looking for a guy to start to kind of get away from the pack and say, hey, this is my job. And, you can say that with a bunch of positions across our side of the ball.
And I also think too, whomever that person is, finding number 8 on offense will be a key point of emphasis. And but also there's going to be a lot of other weapons besides Dante. But I know he's been in and out at times this spring. But I mean, is there anything more you can really add to what we've already seen from Dante during this time, and maybe where he has improved during this time off?
Yeah, there is more I can add. It's his ability off the field. It's his leadership. I think we understand that he's a good football player, and he provided a lot to us last year, and was an all-conference guy. But above all that, the way he's led this offense, the way he's led his position group and the skill group offensively, has been the most exciting thing for me. And I've challenged him, and he's stepped up, and he's done a really fantastic job of bringing the energy, bringing the juice, and still being in it. And I couldn't be more excited about that aspect. And he still has done some great things this spring on the football field as well, which really gets you excited in terms of targeting him and letting that guy go make plays. But where I've been the most excited is that leadership role that he's really taken on the offensive side of the ball.
We'll dive into your running back room. Talking to Coach Wilson, you kind of look around college football these days, and it's not very rare. It's very rare you see guys stay within a program that maybe don't get rewarded right away, and maybe go try somewhere else. On that side of the ball, it's a guy like Kelvin Broom, and now being rewarded for it. Seems like Matt Sora is kind of one of those guys for you in the running back room. Dawson Basinger's really had some good runs for you. Of course, Petey here too, and Malik, a young freshman. Derek, when he's been healthy. You mentioned running back by committee. It seems like you got a pretty good committee there of good stable of running backs that you're trying to figure out.
No, and that's why I'm excited about that room, and that's why I mentioned him earlier. Peterson Curligran, you talk about a journey as a football player in college football, coming in, switching sides of the ball, having a fantastic start to the 2019 season, and it cut a little bit short with injuries. I've been very pleased with him this spring, and I think that he's taken his game to the next level. I believe that, and I'm excited about him, and I'm excited about him leading that room. You bring up a guy like Matt Sora, who's put his head down and has done everything we've asked of him, and he's really impressed me in terms of stepping up this spring and letting it rip. His ability to do everything we ask, whether it's protection, whether it's any of our inside runs, even getting outside of the perimeter. What he gives you is great consistency. And he was kind of on the verge of that the past couple of years in terms of building up to that, but I've been really pleased with him, this whole spring and how he's attacked it and had the right mentality and mindset. Same thing with Dawson. Dawson hasn't had a lot of reps here at Indiana State, and he's coming in and making some big plays. Made a big one today in terms of breaking the open field, and on Saturday as well, and I'm feeling the confidence that he's starting to gain. So it's exciting to see him go through that. And then our young guys, you talk about Malik. He brings a little bit different aspect to the run game, being a little bit bigger guy, obviously. And Derek, really showed some great things early on, and continuing to push through with that. But I like that room. I think the guys are attacking it and really getting a lot out of, obviously, spring ball and everything going forward.
Finally, Coach Switz, the biggest point of emphasis here in the last week and a half or so that you got left with, you got kind of one more scrimmage Saturday and then ultimately the spring game next Saturday. I know you brought up consistency. I'm sure that will be it too. But what are some of the other major points that you really want to close out this spring on before you guys wrap up and head in the finals week?
Physicality and finish. It comes down to that, specifically up front. We got to feel that from all of our guys, O-line, tight ends, and anybody blocking in the box. Physicality on the perimeter. The same thing goes in terms of our receivers. Talk about physicality, making a catch and going through some contact and things like that, and finish. You talk about all the details within our offense and what we ask guys to do. I think our guys understand that at a high level. But I want these guys to finish. I want these guys to play with a different energy, and especially in these last 5 practices we finish out, that's got to be at an all-time high. And that's a group effort in terms of offensively, how we can pressure ourselves to do that. But it's physicality and it's finish, and that's what we're preaching every day to finish strong this spring.